All right, so we're diving deep today into a pretty huge moment in tennis.
Yeah, we are.
Jack Draper's win at Indian Wells. It's the 2025 BNP Paribas Open.
It is.
We've got a whole bunch of sources here giving us every angle of this thing. Match reports, expert analysis, you name it.
The whole 9 yards, really trying to get a good look at what this win means, not just for Draper, but for the sport itself.
And for anyone out there who might not be totally up to speed, Jack Draper, he's this super talented young British player.
That's right.
And he just went and won the Indian Wells Masters. Not just any tournament. This is an ATP Masters 1000. It's kind of a big deal.
Massive. People call it the fifth slam sometimes. That's how big it is. The players, the venue, the whole atmosphere.
Yeah, so it's a really big deal.
It is. For any player getting a Masters 1000 title, that's a massive step forward.
Absolutely.
And what we're going to do today, we're not just going to say Draper won and leave it at that.
Right.
We're going to break down how he got there, who he had to go through to win this thing.
Really get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, and understand why this is such a big deal for British tennis in general, you know, and for the ATP Tour as a whole.
It's a story of a breakthrough, resilience, and maybe even, the start of a new chapter for British tennis.
Could be, could be.
All wrapped up in this one win at Indian Wells.
That's the plan.
So let's start, I guess, with how Draper got to the final.
Sure.
It wasn't exactly a walk in the park, was it?
No, not at all. He had some really tough opponents along the way.
He did.
First round, he plays João Fonseca, young Brazilian player, lots of potential.
Yeah, up-and-comer.
Exactly. And Draper wins that one pretty handily, 6-4, 6-0.
Straight sets, good start.
Yeah, that kind of start can give you a lot of confidence early in a tournament.
It sets the tone.
It does.
Then he's up against Taylor Fritz.
Ooh, yeah, tough one.
Really tough, especially on home soil. Fritz is always dangerous in the U.S.
He is. But Draper gets through that one. 2 tight sets, 7-5, 6-4.
Really showing he can handle the pressure.
Yeah, against a top player in their own backyard, that's a big win.
Absolutely.
And in the quarterfinals, he's got Ben Shelton, another American.
Another tough one.
For sure. And again, Draper wins in straight sets.
Yeah.
6-4, 7-5. So you can see he's playing really consistent tennis, figuring out how to deal with different types of players.
Adapting his game.
Yeah, exactly.
But then the semifinals.
Yeah, that was a crazy one.
The match against Carlos Alcaraz, the defending champ, that was wild.
The real roller coaster. Draper comes out firing, wins the first set 6-1. You think he's going to run away with it?
You really do?
And then Alcaraz just flips a switch, wins the second set, 6-0.
I mean, that's just brutal.
It's not often you see that kind of turnaround at this level,
Especially against a player like Alcaraz. He's just relentless.
Yeah, so mentally, that's a huge challenge for Draper to come back from that.
Absolutely.
But that's exactly what he does. Takes the third set 6-4. It shows a lot of maturity to be able to reset like that.
You're right. Most players, I think, would have just crumbled after a set like that, especially against Alcaraz. He's got this aura,
He does. He does.
Like, he's unbeatable.
But Draper dug deep and found a way.
And it felt like a real turning point, like a statement, I can beat the best, even when I'm down.
Totally. That mental toughness, that resilience, that's crucial if you want to stay at the top of this game.
So he goes into the final, having beaten the defending champ, and he's facing Holger Rune.
Yeah, another young gun.
Really talented player. Looking at their rankings and everything, you kind of expected a really tight match.
You would.
But Draper just dominated.
He did. 6-2, 6-2 in just over an hour. It was over before it really even began.
It was impressive. From the first point, he was just on it. Got those early breaks in both sets and never looked back.
Yeah, Rune just didn't seem to have any answers. You could see the frustration building.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And Draper ends the match with this huge forehand winner.
Bang. Right down the line. A real statement.
Statement win for sure. And just to put it into perspective, this was Rune's 4th Masters 1000 final already, and he's only 21.
That's right. So Draper wasn't just beating some random guy. He was beating a guy who's already established himself as a force on the tour.
So we've talked about who Draper beat.
We have.
But let's talk about how he did it, especially in that final. What was working for him?
Well, his serve was huge.
Yeah, it was lights out.
It was 10 aces, and he won 92.3% of his first serve points.
That's insane.
It is. When you're serving like that, it takes so much pressure off the rest of your game.
You can just relax and swing away on the return.
Exactly. And Rune didn't even have a single break point the entire match.
Not one.
Not one. Draper only lost 4 service points in the first set. I mean, think about the pressure that puts on your opponent.
It's got to be demoralizing.
Yeah, you're serving, and you know you can't afford to lose a single point. You might not get another chance.
And it wasn't just the pace on the serve, was it?
No, the placement, too. He was mixing it up, keeping Rune guessing.
Couldn't get a read on it.
That's
But
good.
it wasn't all about the serve.
Right.
His ground strokes were also really firing.
They were. He hit 21 winners to Rune's 7.
That left-handed forehand was causing Rune all sorts of trouble.
Oh, yeah, being a lefty definitely gives you an advantage, you know. You can hit those angles that right-handed players just aren't used to.
So it's a combination of the serve and those powerful ground strokes that kept Rune on the defensive.
Pretty much. And then you add in the mental toughness, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah, coming back from that second set against Alcaraz, that was huge.
It was. And he brought that same composure into the final.
Didn't let the moment get to him at all.
Nope, he was just locked in.